Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Paper, Scissors, Death by Joanna Campbell Slan. Narrated by Amy Mcfadden. Prologue. 2 days before Thanksgiving, a man doesn't think about dying. And if he did, he certainly wouldn't pick the Regal Chalet in downtown Clayton, an exclusive suburb of St. Louis, as a venue. The shimmering fountain out front, an elegant cigar room, and 2 four-diamond restaurants all reminded guests that life was very much worth living. But on this clear November day, with small puffs of clouds like fuzzy cotton balls on a cerulean sky, George Lowenstein's life was ending. The agony that gripped him wasn't indigestion from his meal at Antonio's. It wasn't a sore muscle from his most recent round of golf at the St. Louis Country Club. His vision blurred, his hands shook, and his gut twisted in pain. Leaning back on a fretted pillowcase, George moaned. "I don't feel so good. I feel dizzy. Sick to my stomach. Call 911. His companion only smiled at him, but it was a grin tinged with malice, and it hurt George more than the spasm in his chest. That's when George Lowenstein knew he was dying. A wave of fury accompanied the next twisting grip of pain. In response, George clawed at the expensive Egyptian cotton sheets. He tried to lift his arm, to move to the phone, but a pressing wall of agony kept him pinned against the headboard. A rage swept through him. Why hadn't he seen this coming? He thought of all the people who counted on him and hated himself for not being more prepared. From outside the room came the lonely rattle of a maid's cart. For one shining second, George thought help was on the way. He opened his mouth to scream, to yell for help. A piece of silken fabric was stuffed down his throat, smothering his cry. In the hallway, a Hispanic woman wearing a black dress with a white collar and white apron checked a clipboard. The small laminated sign with its perky "Do Not Disturb" message on George's door encouraged her to move along. The last thing she wanted was for a guest to complain, not when she was so close to having enough money to go back to Toluca. Her pen hesitated before touching sheets of paper covered in scribbles. She tucked a stray lock of hair into the bun resting on her neck. She'd have to come back later. The maid leaned on her cart to rub her ankle, and then straightened. She pushed her supply cart down the hall corridor, its wonky wheel squeaking all the way. 1. "Thank you, Mrs. Lowenstein." 7 pre-adolescent girl voices piped in unison. "Thanks, Mom," added my 11-year-old daughter, Anya. The girls were delighted with the pages they'd created with my help. "You are welcome," I said. All in all, it had been a pretty terrific playdate at Time in a Bottle, my favorite scrapbook store. I actually glowed. Approval was a scarce commodity in my life, and the fact that I was getting my strokes from children didn't diminish my joy one bit. I was sharing the second great love of my life, scrapbooking, with the first love of my life, Anya. Jennifer Moore, mother of Nikki, echoed the girls' praise. "That's right. Mrs. Lowenstein deserves a super big thanks. She put together this whole project." Turning to me, she added, "Really, Kiki, you outdid yourself. Boy, are you creative. Their pages look really cool. No wonder people call you the scrapbook queen of St. Louis." This was a nice turn of events. Jennifer had never paid one bit of attention to me, no matter how hard I'd tried to strike up a friendship with her. From the tips of her French manicured nails to the zebra-striped flats on her toes, Jennifer exemplified what I think of as essence of Ledoux Lady of Leisure. The mothers in this suburb are très chic and très sleek. Try as I might, I don't measure up. Oh, I do my best to make up for my shortcomings by being a willing volunteer and going out of my way to be nice, but not everyone is interested in what I have to offer. Jennifer sure wasn't. But the day she heard another mom asking me questions about scrapbooking, her ears perked up. She was looking for a pre-Thanksgiving activity for her daughter, Nikki, and did I think I could help? In a flash, photo flash, that is, I said, "Sure." Now my daughter was spending time with the coolest girls from her class at the Charles and Ann Lindbergh Academy, locally known as CALA, our city's most exclusive private school. This was definitely a day to remember, and I had lots of practice saving memories. "Girls, would you please stand over by the wall? I want to take your picture." "For your own scrapbook?" asked Nikki. "That's right." I moved the girls into a formation that allowed each child to display her prized piece of artwork. As I looked over the variety of results, it was a real struggle to contain the grin that threatened to stretch my face to unladylike proportions. No matter how extensively I plan a session like this, the individual vagaries of each participant's taste and skill level determine the outcome. And what a wide-ranging outcome it was. Caitlin Godfrey chose to make her turkey a vivid lavender and added a hot pink wattle and orange-striped tail feathers. Ashley Hoyka spelled the upcoming holiday Tanksgiving and steadfastly rejected any attempts to bring her English in line with more conventional standards. Claire Kovaleski couldn't make up her mind about placement and moved each piece until nubs of torn paper dotted the whole layout. Lindsay Murphy pouted until I replaced her turkey die cut with a panda bear. Minnie Danvers confused the journaling paper, ivory, so handwriting would show up, with the photo mat paper, deep green. Nikki Moore decided to decorate her turkey with sparkly ballpoint pens she carried in her purse. Brittany Ballard explained she hated Thanksgiving because her father, Bill, my husband's business partner, always made her eat dark meat, and she used lettering stickers to give her turkey a protest sign: "Eat more beef." All in all, the special outing for the group of preteens had turned out well, even though it had been a lot of work. "Don't you ever get bored with this?" Jennifer asked. "Nope." I clicked the shutter on my digital camera. "Wait, girls, I want to take another. One of you closed your eyes. It's always a good idea to take extra pictures." Nikki left her pals to give her mother a hug. "Mom, this was awesome. Everybody had a great time. Can you and I scrapbook when we get home? We've got all those photos in the basement." Jennifer smiled down at her daughter. Nikki seemed like a sweet kid. I hoped this might foster a friendship between her and Anya. "I guess we could, honey, but I don't know where to start." Jennifer turned to me. "You've really gotten these girls excited." I smiled. I had no illusions that my young friends were going to run right out and fill albums with photos and their written reflections on life, but I did hope that one or two might be tempted to try scrapbooking. We all have lives of value, no matter how different our journeys. From the variation in their pages, each of the girls seemed well on her way to a highly individualistic and exciting life. Every girl, that is, except my Anya. Only Anya constructed her make and take page in an exact replica of my design. That worried me. Other mothers complained about sassy mouths and rebellious behaviors. Witness Ashley Hoyka's disastrous haircut, an experiment gone wrong at a recent sleepover. Lindsay Murphy's 2 detentions for skipping classes to watch boys play hacky sack. My sweet Anya exhibited only the most biddable behavior. I worried about her. Was this a prelude to becoming a woman? Were her hormones starting to rear their ugly heads? Or was it a reaction to her father's recent moodiness? My husband George had seemed distant and preoccupied lately, although a good round of golf the other day had perked him up considerably. Watching my lovely daughter push a strand of platinum blonde hair away from her face, I felt a surge of protective love. What happened to that little rabble-rouser who organized a strike in kindergarten to get chocolate milk, who melted all her crayons into one big lump in first grade by using the microwave in the teacher's lounge, who let the crawdads out of the aquarium in fourth grade because all God's creatures want to be free? What happened to my rowdy, playful Anya? What was wrong? Why didn't she jabber and horse around like the other girls? Maybe over the Thanksgiving holiday we'd have a chance to talk, without the dodge of loads of homework or the evasion of "my favorite TV show is on." Maybe Anya could be coaxed into sharing what bothered her, what had made her so quiet lately. "Can I get a copy of that photo? Where are you taking it to be developed?" Jennifer asked. The whole time the girls had been working on their projects, Jennifer had been on her cell phone. Jennifer was one of those mothers who was part fashion stylist, part career counselor, and part social director in her daughter's life. She seemed very organized. "Of course you can have copies. I'll get them to you." "Kiki, you sure are an expert scrapbooker." "I'm pretty crazy about it." I've only been good at two things in my life: scrapbooking and getting pregnant. This was the one skill I could share without nasty social repercussions. "No kidding," said Dodie Goldfodder, Time in a Bottle's owner. Dodie was a big woman with a voice rivaling a boombox. "Last year, Kiki chased the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile down Highway 70 at 70 miles an hour because she wanted a photo. That speeding ticket made for an expensive page embellishment." "I've always wanted a weenie whistle," I said. Jennifer laughed. "I like photos and all, but gosh, it looks like you put a lot of time into this. Do you and Anya work on your scrapbooks together?" "Once in a while. Anya's been scrapbooking for years, and she loves the scrapbooks I've made. Every kid likes to be the star of a scrapbook page." As we talked, I picked up supplies and returned them to their original places. What surprised me was that Jennifer didn't lift a finger to help. That was just one of the ways we were different. Another was how we talked about people. As the girls were being dropped off, I had overheard Jennifer and a couple of the other mothers snicker about Dodie. One woman bet she was related to the woolly mammoth they unearthed at nearby Principia College. Okay, Dodie is large and unusually hairy for a woman. Even so, that was not a nice thing to say. I'm a big believer in nice. That's me, Kiki Lowenstein, the original Mrs. Nice Guy. I've even apologized to empty carts I've bumped at the grocery store. Dodie passed out class calendars, discount coupons, and small goodie bags to the girls. Competition for scrapbook dollars is keen. As the hobby grows, everyone wants to get in on the act. Keeping her clients happy with small freebies, great classes, and a never-ending flow of new products is the key to Dodie's success. In every way but one, Time in a Bottle is the preeminent scrapbook store in the St. Louis area. All Dodie lacks is an in-house scrapbook celebrity and expert. Dodie offered Jennifer a goodie bag. "Nobody knows more about scrapbooking than Kiki. I keep asking her to come work for me. I get all sorts of scrapbookers who want to teach in exchange for supplies, but no one is as talented as she is. Kiki's work has been published in every major scrapbooking magazine. She's famous." I couldn't help but blush. If Dodie only knew how important scrapbooking was to me, she'd charge me by the hour for therapy instead of paper supplies. Time in a bottle was my home away from home. "That's so," said Jennifer. "You are published?" "Darn tootin'," said Dodie. "Look at this." Dodie directed her attention to one of my albums. "Aren't these pages adorable? See how each layout tells a story? That's what makes her work special. Believe me, I could keep her busy 24/7 making custom albums and teaching private lessons." Jennifer slowly flipped through the pages. She was viewing my most recent and elaborate work. Her eyes took in the mix of patterned papers, the designs, and the embellishments. "Do you teach adult classes? I mean, I have supplies, but I don't know where to start. A lot of my pictures are in those magnetic albums." "You want to get those out right away." I explained how the sticky background and plastic covering for magnetic pages is a deadly combination that can cause photos to fade. "Could I pay someone to do that for me? To take the photos out?" "I can help you do that. It's really easy." I gave a surreptitious yank at my blouse because it was riding up. I'm self-conscious about my weight. All the other mothers at Calla are built like pencils. In their world, anything above a size 0 is borderline obese. Through the front door came 3 more Calla moms, chattering like a flock of busy starlings. They were all beautifully dressed, well-groomed, and thinner than a single sheet of vellum. I gave another yank at my blouse. Seeing how thin they were made me feel awkward. The shame of being overweight made me hungry. Who am I kidding? Everything makes me hungry. There's an emptiness in me I can't seem to shake. The front door to Time in a Bottle opened yet again to admit Linda Kovaleski, Claire's mother. Linda always seemed a bit confused. "Is this the party place?" Like the other mothers, Linda was tan, underweight, and stylish in her designer clothes. My hair is an outrageous cap of curls. Theirs, smooth, perfectly cut, and shaped to enhance their best features. And their makeup was always perfect. From the tips of their fingernails to their creamy lips, the women of Calla were impeccably groomed. Maybe that's why I feel like I don't belong. My mother-in-law, Sheila, would be the first to tell you I lack polish. Jennifer promptly forgot about her magnetic albums. She hurried over to join her friends. "Anya, honey, ready to go home?" My daughter was standing alone, pretending to be engrossed in the latest paper crafting magazines. I hoped she hadn't picked up on my insecurity. Time to put some spin on the afternoon. "This was fun, wasn't it? I can't wait to make a page of this day. I wouldn't want to forget it." But, as it turned out, I wouldn't need a page to remember the day. In fact, I would give anything to blot that day from my mind. As Anya and I climbed into my Lexus SUV, a uniformed policeman approached the car and gestured for us to talk. "Yes?" I rolled down the window. "I'm not speeding. I haven't even turned on the engine."
"Mrs. George Lowenstein? Ma'am, I'm afraid I have some bad news. It's about your husband. You need to come with me."
2. My husband is dead. Are you sure? Sure it's George? I mean, you could have made a mistake, right? I couldn't believe what I'd just heard. Detective Chad Detweiler of the St. Louis County Police Department shook his head solemnly.
"No, Mrs. Lowenstein. I'm sorry. There's no mistake. A housekeeper found his body in a room at the Regal Chalet. We're sure it was your husband. His clothes were hanging over a chair, and his wallet was in his pants pocket."
I swallowed hard. I'd managed to keep my calm on the ride to the police station. I kept reassuring my daughter there must have been a misunderstanding. Now I felt like I was coming apart at the seams. I couldn't focus. I kept repeating, "Dead. My husband is dead. There must be some mistake."
"I sincerely doubt it."
The room swam and turned flips. I tried to process what the detective told me. In my struggle, I focused on the trivial. It seemed more manageable than the big picture. I don't understand. Why were his clothes over a chair? You mean he didn't have them on? Did he, have on any of his clothes?" The detective shook his head, his eyes never leaving my face. He seemed to be taking my measure, sizing me up. The large mirror on the adjacent wall of the interview room bounced my image back to me. My hair was always curly, but today it had turned into ringlets. My skin looked blotchy from the cold, and I'd chewed my lips until I could taste the blood in my mouth. I took tiny sips from the glass of water the detective had offered and swallowed repeatedly to dislodge the lump in my throat. I tried to focus on a far-off object as I blinked back tears. There were so many questions. Part of me didn't want to ask, didn't want to know, but a voice inside reasoned it was better to hear the worst of it here, from an impartial officer of the law, than in a public place from a friend. I thought about the mothers I'd left at the scrapbook store and shuddered. Detweiler sat across from me patiently, silently. Obviously, someone had made a mistake. That was all there was to it. This man couldn't be talking about George. Not my George. "How can you be so sure? I mean, don't you need someone to identify the body? You probably just think it's George. As soon as he answers my call, we'll get this straightened out." I reached for my cell phone and punched his number in one more time. The phone rang and rang. Suddenly, my whole body grew heavy, and I was incredibly tired. All I wanted was to go home and sleep for 1,000,000 years. Maybe this had all been a bad dream. Detweiler sighed.
"We got hold of your husband's business partner, Mr. Ballard. I was there when he made the ID. If you'd like to see the body—"
I shook my head vehemently.
"I'm sorry, Mrs. Lowenstein."
He didn't press the issue. He could tell I was queasy, or maybe he worried I'd make a scene. Poor Bill. A part of me felt guilty that I hadn't been the one to take on this intimate and final task of marital life. It seemed, in some way, the least I could have done for George. And Bill had done it for him. For me. For us. It seemed wrong. It felt like one more failure. I put a hand to my stomach and pressed hard to control the revolt within. A strand of chestnut hair fell over Detweiler's eyebrow, a dark accent mark to his unwavering gaze.
"There'll have to be an autopsy. The law requires one in these circumstances."
Detweiler took a sip of his coffee and set the mug down gently on the battered Formica tabletop. A circle of brown indicated the depleted level of the liquid. It reminded me of George's wedding ring. I fingered my own gold band. I was trying desperately to take in what the detective was saying. George was dead. What was I going to tell Sheila, my mother-in-law? Does George's mother know? I did not want to be the one to tell Sheila her son was dead.
"Mr. Lowenstein's mother has been notified."
The detective cleared his throat.
"Evidently, our police chief is an old friend."
Thank God, I thought. She didn't have to hear the news from a stranger.
"A woman at your house."
He turned to a page in his steno pad.
"Mert Chambers, told us where to find you."
A thought flittered across the ticker tape of my mind and fell on the floor in a pile of other ideas. How could we have Thanksgiving? George always carved the turkey. And what about Hanukkah? He loved shopping for his daughter. How would Anya learn about her Jewish heritage? Who would teach her golf? Take her to Cardinal baseball games? Help her cheer on the Rams on Monday Night Football? An endless stream of problems presented themselves. "You brought us here, rather than talking to me at home? Why?"
"We have a few questions."
I was afraid to guess what that might mean. Time stood still. I was at the top of the roller coaster, looking down, suspended, waiting. In my peripheral vision, I saw Detweiler rub his mouth. He was struggling, trying to decide what to say. I did not look up. I was bracing myself for what was to come. But I got it wrong.
"Mrs. Lowenstein, did your husband's partner tell you money was missing from the business?"
My head snapped up. What? Stars danced in my field of vision. Saliva flooded my mouth. I struggled not to bolt from my seat. I looked around desperately for the nearest trash can. Any second now, I'd heave my guts all over the floor. Where was the ladies' restroom? I swallowed hard. Money. Missing? How much?
$500,000.
I jumped up and ran, praying I'd make it to the John. 3. Mert drove Anya and me home from the station. She sent her son Roger and one of his friends to pick up my car from the scrapbook store. After Anya cried herself to sleep, Mert and I sat in my kitchen and talked.
"Did George ever mention finances to you? Did he talk about what might happen if he died? I know he was young, but a man ought to think about that once he's become a daddy,"
Mert said. I shook my head, trying to clear it and to make sense of what was happening. George was dead. He owed money to his company. Mert was asking me questions. Pardon? I stuttered. She repeated herself. George told me that if anything ever happened to him, I should talk to Bill Ballard. He said Bill knew everything about the finances of their business, and I could trust Bill. They'd been friends since high school.
"Yeah, but did he say he had life insurance? Money set aside?"
No, he didn't say. I couldn't talk. My mouth was too dry. I got up, poured myself a glass of water, and then realized I should offer one to Mert, too. She didn't want one. Sliding back down onto my chair, I said, "George always talked about being a good provider. His father left Sheila well off. When I pressed him, he would tell me to trust Bill, over and over. He explained that Bill handled the money. Bill knew all the details of their agreements, and Bill would see to it that Anya and I were taken care of." Mert stared at me. "I have to believe he was as good as his word," I said.
"It don't make sense. Him dying like that? George was in good health, wasn't he?"
Mert asked. "He had a complete checkup not 6 months ago."
"Why you suppose he was there? And naked? You said he was at that there Adam's Mark?"
Under stress, Mert's diction emphasized her hard-scrabble background. "No, not the Adam's Mark. The Regal Chalet," I corrected. I stared at the big silver Viking refrigerator, noting our wavy reflections. It's like my life was happening in a carnival funhouse, I thought, and nothing seems real. My husband is dead. Money is missing. None of this made sense. I needed to talk to George. But he was gone, and only this morning everything had been fine. I was dumbstruck by the magnitude of the situation. Mert's calloused hand reached over to squeeze mine.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?